Hello everyone, we're about to go into a few weeks in which there's going to be a gap between the Parsha in Israel and the Parsha outside of Israel. This is because Shavuos was a Friday, and therefore that Shabbos was a regular Shabbos in Israel, which we read the Parsha. Outside of Israel was the second day of Yontiv, where they read the second day Yontiv reading, and therefore Israel will be ahead for a few weeks. From this perspective, I thought it would be a great time to deal with why this gap happens and what we should do if indeed we're traveling from here to there and vice versa. So in order to deal with this question, let's take a step back and ask ourselves a very simple question. Is there any obligation for me to make up the Torah reading? The Torah reading was started by none other than Moshe Rabbeinu. He was a rabbi, so he made a rabbinic enactment. That's the Rambam says, Moshe Rabbeinu tiken, shiyu korim Torah barabim b'Shabbat, b'Sheni, u'v'Chamishi. That you should read the Torah every 3 days, namely Shabbos, Monday, and Thursday, and then Ezra Sofer came and added in Shabbos afternoon. The Mishnah in Megillah says, "Ein korin b'Torah b'chot ma'asara." You need a minyan to lain, and that's what the Shulchan Aruch paskins. Ein korin b'Torah b'chot ma'asara g'dulim b'nei cholrin. The question is, what does this minyan mean for me? We have to quote a Gemara in Moed Katan Daf Kaf Bet Amud Bet. It says that when a president of the Jewish people dies, then Batei Midrashot kulam betelin. The president was like the chief rabbi. All the Batei Midrash don't learn for a week as a sign of mourning. And you don't even go to shul. You only go to shul to lain 7 aliyahs and you leave. Explains Rashi that you read the Sefer Torah, you lain. You daven alone. You only come for laning. Based on this, Rav Baruch Ber Leibovich, Rosh Yeshiva of Kamenetz, Talmud Mufak of Reb Chaim Brisker, asked in the name of his great Rebbe the following question. Is Torah reading, in his words, is Torah reading like Hagomel? I have to say Hagomel. I can't do it without a minyan, but it's my personal obligation. And indeed, this is the opinion of the Ra'avan, one of the great Rishonim out of Ashkenaz, was asked by his brother Rav Chizkiah, why is it that an aliyah starts with Baruch Hu Hashem Amvarach? After all, if there was no Kohen in Shul, and you called up a Yisrael, and he said Baruch Hu Hashem Amvarach, and everyone answered Baruch Hashem Amvarach L'Lamved, and at that moment a Kohen came in, you tell the Yisrael, wait for your aliyah, stand here, but the Kohen gets the aliyah because Baruch Hu is not the formal beginning of the aliyah. And the Kohen that gets the aliyah repeats Baruch Hu. So Rav Chizkiah, the brother of the Ravan, said, what is it doing there? And he explains, HaKoreh b'Torah, motzi et hatzibur yedei chovatan mikriya. We need to fulfill our obligation to lain in shul, our personal obligation. And the only way to do this is by the guy getting the aliyah, coming and basically saying with the words Baruch Hu, atem tzrichim levarech v'likrot kamoni. You have to agree to my getting the aliyah, and therefore they all say Baruch Hashem Avarach L'Olam Va'ed, and that means they're yotze by virtue of his aliyah. From this perspective, according to the Ravan, it's a personal obligation in which we have to fulfill our obligation, and he asks us for permission to do it on our behalf. Therefore, it says the Tosfot that Rav Sheshet in Brachot Avchet turned his back to the Torah reading and learned during laning, something very problematic, because one of his answers is that he was blind. If you're blind, you can't read Torah Shebichtav, because Torah Shebichtav, as the word says, written Torah has to be read from its source. Since he couldn't read it, he's exempt from laning. Therefore, he could turn his back and learn during laning, implying that if he wasn't, he would not be allowed to learn, because you have to listen to the Torah reading. It's a personal obligation. This would explain the Rambam that says that the last 8 psukim of the Torah in Parshat Vezot HaBracha that talks about Moshe's death is actually very unique. It can be read without a minyan. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, as quoted in Halichot Shlomo, says that if indeed it's a communal obligation, how can you read these 8 psukim without a minyan? He explains, from here you can imply that it's a personal obligation. For every pasuk in the Torah you need a minyan, just like you need it for Hagomel, which is a personal obligation. But for the last 8 psukim, you don't need it. This was the position of Rav Soloveitchik, as reported by Rav Shechter, and I'm quoting from Divrei Arav. If he missed the Torah reading in Boston on a Monday morning coming into New York, he would try to get a minyan together in the afternoon in order to make up the Torah reading, because he felt it was a personal obligation that he missed. So based on that, how do you understand the Gemara in Moed Katan? It's a personal obligation to hear Laining. So they davened all week by Yechidus because of mourning over the Nasi that died. But when it came Laining, you need a minyan. It's a personal obligation. They laned in shul and then they went home. That's one school of thought. The other school of thought is somewhere in the middle. And that is, it's not a personal obligation that I need to hear the laning, but rather, says the Rogachover, that Heicha deleka tzibur mechuyavin likanes lebeit hamikdash v'likrot. Heicha sheyesh tzibur az hayachid patur mikriya. Ma she'en ken im leka tzibur az mutar chiyuv kol echad ve'echad sheyeh asara likriyat haTorah. Says the Rogachover, you have to ensure that your community has a laning. Doesn't mean that you personally have to be there. So if there's 9 people there, you got to go there to make up the minyan. But if there's already 10, you don't have to hear the Torah reading at all. In other words, it's a communal obligation to have a Torah reading in each shul. Once it's there, you don't have to hear it. That's probably why Rav Sheshet turned this back. There were 10 listening. He doesn't have to listen himself. And indeed, in a wonderful book called Shiorei Rav, Al Inyani Kriyat Shema B'Tfilah, written by Rav Menachem Genak of the OU, and I thank Rabbi Judah Kerbil, Rabbi of the Queen's Jewish Center, for bringing it to my attention. In a footnote, number 103, on this topic, on page Reish Lamed Chet, he says, "Bichlal takanat Ezra mechuyav kol echad ve'akol panim yitzarefu litasef yachad im hatzibur kedei sheyitkayem takanat Ezra lekayem ma'aseh kriya b'fnei hatzibur v'achovat yachid hu etzem hatzarfut b'toch hatzibur v'lo al hashmiya." In other words, you have to do what you can to ensure that there is a Torah reading by virtue of a laning in shul. Doesn't mean you personally have to be there. If it's already done, you're finished. But if it's not done, you better go to help with this communal need. According to this second understanding, how do we understand the Gemara in Moed Katan? Very simply, they had to go into shul to make sure that communally there's a laning. Doesn't mean each and every person had to go. It meant at least 10 people have to go. But once there's a communal laning in shul, you don't have to be there yourself. God willing, next time, we'll deal with the third point of view, and that is, it's not a personal obligation. It's not really a personal obligation to make sure the community actually has a laning, but rather, it's a total and utter communal obligation, not a personal one.
Que